México hablamos náhuatl, español, mixteco, 69 lenguas en total. Estamos orgullosos de nuestro multilingüismo. Asiste a la 5ª edición de la Feria de las Lenguas Indígenas Nacionales FLIN 2021 en el Centro Nacional de las Artes de la Ciudad de México del 11 al 14 de agosto y sigue las actividades virtuales hasta el 30 de septiembre, porque las lenguas son cultura, son modos de vida, ni una lengua menos. Consulta las actividades en inali.gov.mx.
Tancha de Toanda Shingo.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Es un gran gusto darles la bienvenida a esta charla del día de hoy en la Feria de las Lenguas Indígenas, emisión 2021. Tenemos hoy una charla particularmente interesante que se llama El pueblo, los guardianes de la lengua. Es una participación que tenemos desde Nueva Zelanda, donde nos van a hablar sobre la situación del Mauri y en particular sobre la nueva política que ha seguido Nueva Zelanda para garantizar la revitalización, la recuperación de esta lengua que estaba amenazada hasta hace no mucho tiempo. Es un gusto compartirles que el Instituto Nacional de Lenguas Indígenas cuenta con una colaboración ya desde hace cierto tiempo con la Embajada de Nueva Zelanda, muy fructífera. Ha sido muy interesante esta vinculación. En México todos estamos fascinados, yo creo que en más lugares del mundo, con un proyecto que fue innovador y que fue muy revelador en el campo de la revitalización lingüística, que es el nido de lengua. Muchos lo conocemos, muchos sabemos que es un modelo que efectivamente se centra en la posibilidad de garantizar la transmisión intergeneracional de las lenguas minorizadas, que ese es el principal problema, ¿no? El centro, el corazón para garantizar, es lo que hay que atender para garantizar que una lengua se mantenga, ¿no? Que no desaparezca. Entonces, esta fascinación por este proyecto, el Nido de Lenguas, que se ha expandido y que se ha replicado con bastante buen éxito en muchos lugares, pues se lo debemos a esta experiencia con el Mauri. De modo que pues siempre nos resulta muy interesante, podemos aprender muchísimo de la experiencia de este país y pues por ello les agradecemos muchísimo su participación, haber aceptado la invitación. Gracias a la Embajada de Nueva Zelanda por ayudarnos a pues tener estos espacios tan ricos, tan interesantes. Y bueno, pues sin más, le daría la palabra a Alysha Bagasra de la Embajada de Nueva Zelanda para que nos presente a nuestro ponente y la conversación que vamos a escuchar.
Muchísimas gracias, Almandina. Buenas tardes. Tena koutou katoa, ko rangitoto te mauna, ko orewa te moana, no tamaki makoto aho, ko Alysha Bagasra toku ingoa, no reira tena koutou katoa. Saludos a todas y todos. Rangitoto es la montaña con que me relaciono, Orewa es el mar. Soy de la ciudad de Auckland, en Nueva Zelanda, y finalmente me llamo Alysha Bagasra. Soy la segunda secretaria en la Embajada de Nueva Zelanda en México. Acabo de saludarles en Tereo Mauri, el idioma originario de Nueva Zelanda. Quisiera dar las gracias en particular a los y las colegas del Instituto Nacional de Lenguas Indígenas por la invitación a Nueva Zelanda para participar en la Feria de las Lenguas Indígenas Nacionales por el segundo año consecutivo. Es un verdadero honor. Le agradezco a la doctora Almandina Cárdenas Demay por sus comentarios de introducción de esta sesión. Valoramos mucho el compromiso suyo y el de su equipo de INALI de trabajar con nosotros en el tema de la revitalización de idiomas indígenas, lo cual está dando resultados alentadores. Nueva Zelanda y México comparten la misma visión de empoderar a nuestros pueblos indígenas a través de la recuperación cultural y desarrollo económico y social, liderado por las mismas comunidades. La lengua está en el corazón de la identidad cultural y sirve como un vínculo primordial entre las personas y su comunidad y, en lo fundamental, su bienestar. Los pueblos indígenas de Nueva Zelanda y México comparten la historia del colonialismo y el desplazamiento de sus lenguas por un idioma colonial. Se diferencian en que Nueva Zelanda tiene un solo idioma originario, Te Mauri, mientras México tiene 68 idiomas oficiales, más los dialectos. No obstante, tenemos mucho que aprender del uno al otro. Y ya estamos colaborando tanto en construir las políticas públicas para apoyar el fortalecimiento de las lenguas al nivel estructural, como en trabajar con las comunidades y las familias para la planificación comunitaria lingüística, hasta en crear y producir material lúdico y creativo en las lenguas indígenas. La colaboración entre Nueva Zelanda y México en este ámbito de suma importancia tiene mucho potencial de florecer aún más. La Embajada de Nueva Zelanda estamos muy dispuestos a seguir facilitando estos vínculos entre nuestras instituciones, los y las expertos y activistas lingüísticas, y finalmente entre las comunidades indígenas mismas. Invitamos a cualquier persona interesada que esté elaborando en este tema a que se ponga en contacto con nosotros. En nombre de la Embajada de Nueva Zelanda en México, me da mucho gusto presentar a Te Matawai, una institución en Aotearoa, Nueva Zelanda, que labora de manera directa con las comunidades y familias para impulsar la revitalización del idioma Mauri. Hoy estamos muy agradecidos de contar con la participación del licenciado Poia Rewi, el Tumu Whakairai, el titular de Te Matawai. El señor Rewi tiene afiliación con las tribus Ngati Manawa, Tuhoe, Te Arawa, Natifare y Tufaretoa. Es renombrado por su experiencia y dominio en el campo de revitalización del idioma maorí y su rol de dar discursos formales en las ceremonias tradicionales. Las áreas principales de su investigación, enseñanza y trabajo comunitario son el idioma, la cultura, la educación y las artes escénicas. El título de esta sesión, como la doctora Almandina mencionó, es Te Iwi, Te Kaipupuri y Te Mauri, el pueblo, los guardianes de la lengua. Este refleja el modelo fortificante de Te Matawai, el cual busca que las personas de las comunidades indígenas tengan un papel activo en la revitalización de sus lenguas. Sin más preámbulo, le paso la palabra al señor Rewi, que ahora muchas gracias.
Hola, directora general adjunto. Es un privilegio hablar con usted esta mañana. Tēnei te mihi kia koutou, katoa kei Mexico, nā tāngata whenua, te whakaora nei nā reo o nā iwi taketake. Tēnei te ngā kau e mihi ana kia koutou. To you all, it's I'm very humbled to be asked to share with you what we're doing here in Te Matawai in New Zealand, and if I can be of any help at any time, we'd like to be able to do so. I apologize that my colleague Mikaya is unable to attend today. She has a funeral of a family member, and so ka mihi ki nā atua, ka mihi ki ngā mate, ka mihi kia koutou. So I'd just like to acknowledge the Creator, our God, for taking care of us, acknowledge those of us, our dead, who we share, and to you all tuning in today. Tēnei te mihi te ngāpere kia koutou. Really thankful and blessed to be with you today. So, te iwi, te kaipupuri, te Mauri. Te Matawai, I'll give you a bit of a background about the Matawai, but in the start, a bit of history about the Maori language and how it's come to be in this situation. And so that's really Te Mātāwai coming back and saying the people are the custodians of the language, not the crown and not the government. Tēnā koutou. Okay, so if you look southeast of Mexico and you fly for 6,800 miles, you'll see little old New Zealand, not Australia, New Zealand, and Te Mātāwai is in Wellington, in the capital of New Zealand. So for the Maori language journey, it's an Austronesian language. Our ancestors came from the Pacific, traveling through around the 1200s, 1300s, from the Pacific to New Zealand. So before 1850, Maori was the dominant language in New Zealand. And then European Maori, the population shifted and they became more European than Maori. So by 100 years later, as you know, with colonization, assimilation, and all the other forces that colonization brings, it went through 100 years of struggle. So the language was hit the hardest between 1850 and 1950. So from 1950, we call it the Renaissance period, where Maori saw the decline and sought to bring it back to life.
Poia, do you mind sharing your screen so we can see the presentation?
Oh, sorry. Oh, so sorry. Where did that go?
Aprovecho para comentar que quienes nos están siguiendo pueden escuchar la traducción simultánea en la función de traducción que tiene abajo su plataforma.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so that's New Zealand. We're just down a bit south of you all there, 6,800 miles away. So if you want to come for a swim across the Pacific Ocean, come down to New Zealand, come to Wellington, there's a home for you and a bed. So as I mentioned, we're Austronesian language, Maori. It is one of the only formal languages in New Zealand. It was the original language of New Zealand, the indigenous language. We came from the Pacific, from around the 1300s. So we have a lot of commonalities, linguistic similarities with those islands. So before 1850, Maori was the dominant language, 100% Maori. Then after colonization, they're more European than Maori, and so the language became the minority. So within a 20, 30 year period, Maori went from being the #1 language to the #2 language. So as you know, with like I said, with colonization, you have all the effects that come with it. So when that 100 years, Maori saw that the language was dying, the culture was dying, and these were having a strong effect on our people. So the Renaissance period came about around the 1950s through to 2000. Okay. So in 1972, Maori people did a Maori language petition, okay, saying that our language is dying, you need to do something about it, and they marched to the parliament, to our government here in Wellington. Then by 1981, there was a response to the language, and we had our first total immersion preschool, which has started a chain of schools. So the first Kohanga Reo, total immersion preschool was in 1981 down here in Wellington. all education, the language only in Maori, but also you had our old people, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, parents, all supporting our children in this preschool immersion environment. By 1985, as a follow-on from the immersion preschool, of course, where were the children going to go? So we had our first total immersion primary school established. So we're starting to set the trajectory of continuity for the language. Of course, then we had a Waitangi Tribunal came in 1985. So Waitangi Tribunal, that's the Waitangi is the treaty agreement between Maori and non-Maori back in 1840. So when Maori saw that the culture and language were dying, we put in a claim, and it was a Maori language claim. So by 1987, we had a Maori Language Act, and that's when Maori became an official language. And as a follow-on from that, then the Maori Language Commission, Te Taure Whiri Te Reo Māori, was born. And that's, I think I've had colleagues from the Maori Language Commission come over to Mexico in the past to present on the language there. So, carrying on. So between 1996 to 2001, we had approximately 25% of Maori language speakers, which doesn't seem much. And then in 2003, a national Maori language strategy was put in place. Then in 2006, the statistics showed a drop down to 23.7. So it went from 25 to 23.7. And then in 2013, 21.3%. So there's a decline happening. Even though we've got a national Maori language strategy, it's obviously not working. That's the key point, it's not working. So in 2015, 2016, the Maori Language Act was reviewed and then is enacted. And in 2017, a new Maori language strategy for the nation was considered. And one for Maori, okay, developed by Maori. And in 2019, a Maori language strategy for the Crown was also developed. So you had one big strategy and two small strategies underneath. One was for Maori, for our people, and one was for the Crown, for the government. And we call that the House of Maori Language Revitality. So it represents our ancestral house, which has the Crown, the government on one side, and Maori on the other. And this is all established under the review and enactment, the Act in 2016. So who are te mātāwai? Te mātāwai ko te tīmatanga mai, te pupūtanga mai tēnā o ngā wai I ngā maunga, ka tae ka horake ki runga I te whenua katoa. Sir Tamati Riri was instrumental in doing one of the reviews before 2015, 2014, and looked at another entity because the current strategy wasn't working. Am I talking too fast, Alysha? Right. So what does that mean? Te mātāwai is a regenerating source of water that cascades from the mountains and fills the springs and reservoirs. So this is comparing the language to a source. We want it to be regenerating, fresh, and always recycling. So when we recycle, we revitalize. When we recycle, we look at the strategies and we refine them. So te mātāwai is a source, but a source that fills the other sources. So it helps to fill education, fill the homes, for the people. So, as I said, Te Mātāwai came out of the Act, and the key difference between Te Mātāwai and the Mauri Language Commission is that Te Mātāwai acts on behalf of the people. So, Te Taurewhiri, Te Reo Māori, they are more involved with the Crown activities and assisting with language across New Zealand. Te Mātāwai is primarily focused on the people, first and foremost. So Te Mātāwai, we're here to provide leadership in promoting the well-being of the Māori language. Not the well-being that non-Māoris might think it is for the language, well-being and life and vitality from what the Māori see it as and what the Māori people think it should be. And we have some other little activities that we advise and support the Crown initiatives, yes. We provide oversight for our Māori television, and we try to give effect to the Māori and Crown relationships. So those are also part of our role, but primarily our people are number one. So this shows the model of the Act where Te Mātāwai represents the people and the Crown are our partners. The Te Mātāwai is a partner in the revitalization of the Māori language with the Crown. And so we meet at high levels with the Crown to act and revitalize the language. We've been up for 4 years now. We have 7 regions in New Zealand. And from each region, we have 1 board member to represent the people from that region. And then we also have non-regional board members as well to represent the sector. And then we also have 2 ministers on our board, 2 ministerial appointments on our board for the Crown. But we're all one, they are us, we are them. So our board engages all of our people through these 7 regions. And these are the people that do things. So these are the people who teach language. They model language, they live Māori language and culture. They research the language, they do everything. So we've taken the leaders and they become our leaders here at Te Mātāwai. And we're very proud of them. So we want to strengthen the people, the places, and the activities. Where they use the language, where they learn the language, where they teach the language, where they transfer the language. That's really, really important for us here at Te Mātāwai. And we want to ensure that the language lives in its environment, in its original environment, in its natural environment, not in a foreign environment where it has to negotiate its survival, it has to negotiate its right, and it has to try and live in a foreign place. So what does that mean? Our projects go back to the people. So we have 5 outcome areas. So we've had 4 years in development, and now Te Mātāwai has new outcome areas for the next 4 years. So I'm going to share now.
Poia, we're just gonna take a bit of a break because we've had to restart the Facebook transmission.
Oh, good.
For technical difficulties. So have a bit of a breather, and the same with you, Ruth.
Okay, thanks, Alysha.
No worries. Entonces, Michelle, nos vas a avisar cuando Resignemos la transmisión en Facebook.
Sí, en un minutito que me indique Darío, retomamos. Disculpen, pero es que estaba saliendo el audio solamente en inglés. Tuvimos que hacer un cambio de switch para que pueda salir ya con la traducción.
¿Quieres que regresemos un poco del material?
Yo creo que valdría la pena, a lo mejor nada más desde que empieza a presentar ya esta parte del proyecto, para que se entienda el contexto, porque estaba saliendo pero en inglés.
Poia, would you mind, if it's not too much hassle, to just go back a few slides?
Yes.
So it's particularly when you kind of start talking about, yeah.
From there, Alysha?
Yeah. Oh, what's the slide just before that? Let me just so they've got the whole context. Cool.
Yo creo que donde dice que en 2017 empezaron la nueva estrategia. En las fechas.
Sí. If we can go back to where you said the dates, where like the new Te Reo Māori strategy started, to that one. ¿Esa diapositiva, Almandina?
Sí.
Sí. Muchas gracias. Denme nada más un minutito, en breve le digo. Bueno, en cuanto me indican, lo retomamos. Les aviso en un instante. Gracias.
So let us know when the new Facebook link is ready.
You let me know when you're ready, Alysha.
Pardon?
You'll let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll let you know. Yeah, they're just basically making a new link for Facebook.
Oh, good.
Michelle, el video va a estar como grabado, se va a quedar grabado en la página por un rato.
Sí, se quedan los enlaces